How do we look at systems? And by all means, some of the things that have been discussed here would need to be put there. Well, we look at the efficiency. Well, for the economists, efficiency is best use of available resources. And ask ourselves, in your system, where do you have problems that unnecessarily increase costs? And intermediaries are not necessarily part of them. How can you decrease unit costs? Dynamism, that's an interesting concept that is intimately related to efficiency, but you can be efficient and not dynamic, in the sense you have a status quo. If you are facing rapidly changing food demand, you need to be innovative. You need to be able to think through, how can I move from where I am to a higher level of efficiency? That's what we really call being dynamic. And this is where governments can be very helpful in facilitating, in stimulating that dynamic dimension. Sustainability. Well, I'm not going to tedious with you with this, because you're all experts on this concept of sustainability, and certainly this I have in here I have not included the concept of sustainable consumption, which is a really interesting one. And inclusiveness. In FAO, under the strategic objective 4, we talk about efficient and inclusive systems. What is the concept of inclusiveness? Well, it has a different interpretation. It's not leaving people out. It's bringing people in, not only in access to food, but as a system that creates opportunities. Is bringing not only consumers, but also intermediate and producers into the global market opportunities. We have heard a lot about this in these 2 days. So that concept of inclusiveness is very crucial for us. The concept of resilience, it's something that has come on board now in the last few years, and has really been pushed into the dialogue, mostly by issues like climatic change and the fact that, suddenly you lose a lot of productive land because of the flood. What do you do? Can you foresee that? And if you can foresee that, what can you do? Not to avoid it, but to minimize it. So it's interesting to look at the resilience and the concept and the question of external risks, not so much because you can control them, but you can prepare for them. Okay, I mentioned a methodology that was written quite some time ago. It was a pioneering work. It's still fairly good. We need to update it. We need to bring in new concepts. And this is really where we would like the collaboration of all of you who are better at conceptualizing things than we are. What is in the methodology, some of the things we would like to bring in? Well, as I mentioned, the complex system dynamics perspective, redefinition of responsibility, the linkages, the resistances, the unintended consequences, the hubs. Well, somebody here used hubs with a different meaning. For us, this hub is where is it that you can intervene, and that intervention will sprinkle a number of effects, counter effects as well, and then you have to do your calculation which are the hubs that give you the greatest benefit, given that you as a government, you have limited resources. That's an interesting concept, because most investment plans that we see at municipal level are just, well, let's do a bit of this, let's do a bit of that, without even a clear understanding how the system works. But there is very difficult to find a clearly thought out process of why do I intervene here and not somewhere else. 5 minutes, okay. There's very obvious issues. Indicators, very important to start working on indicators for food supply and distribution indicators that are absolutely necessary for policy making. As we mentioned, we are working on a tool with Imperial Policy that will facilitate that process, and we will need indicators. Very difficult concept of design indicators. Everybody's struggling about defining indicators, meaningful indicators. There has been a lot of discussion on digital technology application. I've been discussing this with some colleagues, and this is what we think, that there are areas where digital technology could be particularly useful, but this has been discussed already at a much more detailed level. Well, certainly from problem analysis to policy, design, implementation, and monitoring, what we are already working on. How can digital technology enhance the performance of a system? Sorry. Then, okay. How do you, through technology, facilitate this development of interesting local food system networks? Short supply chain. All this has been discussed. And particularly, how do you, through technology, create opportunities for micro and small enterprises, and particularly those that are led by young people? That means identifying market opportunities, providing the market information, providing the necessary skills. So this has an intimate relation with the technological aspects. Well, actually, here again are more details on those global 4 elements that I'm sure that our colleagues in Imperial can further look at. With respect to food system performance, how to improve the location and manage market infrastructure and logistics through GPS. At wholesale, retail, assembly level, how do you estimate logistic costs? There's a lot of impact on food shelf life or movement of food between rural and urban at particular points of time. This is very interesting because it contributes to price stabilization, but it needs to be well managed. So, again, more details on how technology can be useful. Some of these things will be discussed when our colleagues from Imperial Policy come to FAO. For example, we have the info database, which is a massive source of information on opportunity for how do you transform things at those small scale. How can we work together to make that huge source of information more understandable and more usable? Okay, well, I think I've run out of my time. I will not present the project, but once again, remind you that those of you who come from research institutions and also civil society organizations and want to link up with us, very welcome. We can discuss it further and see how and where we can have a meaningful collaboration. We are not interested in just signing up an agreement. We want to do something concretely, and then we take it from there. All right?
So very quickly, could you just repeat the type of organisation that you work with and you invite people to collaborate?
Oh,
Just repeat the last sentence. I missed the first bit.
have you heard of the United Nations?
Yes.
Right. The United Nations has different agencies, and I work for the Food and Agriculture
Yeah.
Organization, the FAO.
Yes. And then
I'm
which
sorry.
ones did you invite to cooperate with? You just your last sentence just then you said.
Okay, no,
academic organisations.
we as a project, not as a FAO, as a project, there are 2,000 different units. They all want to collaborate. Within my project, Meeting Urban Food Needs, called project is actually a formal entity in FAO. We cherish partnerships with academic institutions and civil society organizations. We need them to be and we find them complementary to what we do. And if we get together, we can better utilize our own resources, respective resources, and hopefully to have a better impact on decision making at local level. Okay?
Okay. So not business.
Oh, no. I have a good salary, but it's not a business.
But you don't want to partner with businesses or support businesses.
Yeah, well, with businesses, we do partner with the private sector. We have stringent rules. Private sectors are screened by an office to avoid partnering with Nestle and well, things are changing there. So we have to make sure that your dealings, your businesses, is not in areas that FAO consider as negative, i.e. promoting the use of pesticides and things like that. Well, this is not done by me. You come to us and say, we want to partner. Usually, a private sector would be a kind of sponsor to activities. That is subject to approval if you're not really into risky business or sending out stupid messages to poor consumers, then there would be no problem.
I think you should fund it as business.
Sorry?
I think you should fund it as business. Yeah, it's really an important initiative, so you should.
Well,
I think you're right. Who's waiting?
now, one thing I would like to clarify is often we have universities or even private people coming to my project and with initiatives that are very technical. They go into the specificities of doing something, i.e. Turning fruits into marmalade. Well, that's not what I do. I have a limit. Otherwise, I have to reinvent the FAO and set it up somewhere else. So when your interest is very technical, then I would redirect you to one of my colleagues in technical units, and you can discuss with them. We're really interested as an initiative to bring in as efficiently and as practically as possible various issues that need to be brought to the attention of policymakers. And if any of those issues require additional technical discussions, then that would be taken up in conjunction with technical units in FAO. It sounds a little bit complicated, but that is some logic. Anybody else?
What yeah, man.
One minute.
Okay. That's because you're asking the question of how do we support these people. and I know that, for example, Farm Crop are raising money, we need to raise some money pretty soon. There are all sorts of these small organisations who are working to exactly the agenda that you've lined out here. And if it could be, if there was some sort of way of saying FAO approves of this mission, it makes it so much easier to raise money, because then you've got the, bam, that's your social credibility done, taken care of.
Okay, what I'm going to say is out of my immediate reaction. Well, a thing you will not get FAO to endorse a company, okay? By the fact that you have been accepted as a partner means that FAO has no problem with you, okay? And we're very happy to collaborate with you. That partnership can be broken any time if you do something that we consider that is not appropriate, not in the industry. So again, I think that there are ways we can collaborate. We're very interested in the point of view of the private sector. We're very interested in the point of view of those who dirty their hands in getting local food system work, who have a dialogue with local government, with consumers, etc. Particularly when they come from developing countries, of course. We can give return to image. I would be hesitant in going any further than that. Whether that is enough or not, that's of course your judgment. But you can understand it from a UN or your point of view. It's very difficult to